I have a statement by the President of the United States. The liberation of Kuwait has begun.
Here it goes now. The sky just full of tracer now. And and there's a very big explosion right off to the west of the city there. Just winking. Here it comes now, Tom. There's a very big bang right out the western side of the city. And now guns, there you go. You can hear that, Tom. There are guns, and there's more explosions on the western edge of the city. There's red tracer, white tracer. It's going up all over the place.
We can tell you from sources here at the Pentagon that this is a very massive attack. This is the attack, the one that has been planned for so long.
The sirens are still going. Let's listen. As many of you folks as you can should head to the shelter now.
Mike, get Arthur Kent to run up to the Joint Information Bureau. Get Arthur Kent to find out. We just lost Saudi Arabia. That's not an encouraging sign.
The world could wait no longer.
The world at war. Kia ora, good evening. I'm Joanna Paul, and this is a special edition of Nightline. Tonight, American and British bombers begin a second wave of attacks on Iraqi targets. President Bush tells the world the conflict will be short. And in New Zealand, the anti-war movement mobilises. Thanks for joining us. In tonight's Nightline special, we'll try to explain how much the world has changed in the last few hours. We've just received the first pictures of the beginnings of Operation Desert Storm, including interviews with some of the US pilots who've flown missions over Iraq. In the latest developments, American and British pilots have begun a second wave of air attacks. This time they're flying to the targets in daylight.
Moments before their debut assault. The pilots have been preparing for this day for the last 5 months. Their mood is optimistic. A short time later, F-15 fighters were readying for their first assault on Baghdad. American reports say there were no losses from their side. They returned jubilant.
Well, the biggest thing I saw was one of the most fantastic fireworks demonstrations I've seen since 4th of July party years and years and years ago. This was tremendous. Baghdad was lit up like a Christmas tree. Looked like everything in downtown was, fireworks were going off, a lot of AAA, impacts on the ground. I think we hit there just about the time we're 40 miles south is when they're pounding targets in Baghdad.
What was your target?
We were shooting the SAMs who were trying to shoot at the guys who were doing what they were doing downtown.
The SAM missile sites in town?
Around the perimeter of the town.
Around the perimeter of Baghdad?
That's correct.
And tell me again about the resistance that you ran into?
Lots of ground fire, lots of AAA, that's anti-aircraft artillery. And like I say, I think there was one SAM fired that I saw, but it was so far away and up through the smoke and haze, it was hard to make it out.
Earlier, a U.S. Air Force commander predicted their losses would be non-existent to minimal.
They have been so well trained because of practices established in Tactical Air Command and throughout the Air Force that they, by believing in their training and doing what they have been trained to do, that they have a very, very high probability of surviving each and every sortie that they're tasked to fly.
One soldier had his own message for television audiences around the world.
No one knows what tomorrow holds, but if you try hard enough, you can reach your goal. I want to help the children and feed the poor. I'm a symbol of peace in a time of war. And for those of you who still don't know, I'm a soldier, and I was proud to go.
A short time ago, F-15s were rearming for a second assault against Baghdad. There are unconfirmed reports of a tank battle on the Saudi-Kuwait border. Janet McIntyre, 3 National News.
Saddam Hussein. He told his people the big confrontation had begun in the mother of all battles between right and wrong. Saddam said God was with him and the people of Palestine would be liberated. The president also warned the Iraqi people would retaliate twice as hard for the US-led offensive. The bombing has claimed on Iraqi television that the Allied jets have attacked areas of the capital heavily populated by civilians. And on the Jordanian border, eyewitnesses say 2 Iraqi air bases nearby have been left in flames by Allied attacks. The bases are believed to have had missiles trained on Israel.
Fighter bombers returning to U.S. air bases in Saudi Arabia brought back pilots who were tired and proud after their sorties into Iraq and Kuwait. The American pilots were also surprised at how little resistance they encountered.
We saw some anti-aircraft fire. It was off from us quite a distance, 8 or 10 miles, so it wasn't to us, but you could see it coming up.
And you said the Iraqi planes that took off came up and then headed north.
It seemed to from where we were, and it just seemed that they were headed north.
After all the nerves during the long wait for the attack to commence, the pilots were excited finally to see action. One described how it felt.
Exactly like the movies, to be real honest. The ground fire of the artillery coming up and the airburst below us was exciting. Initially, we watched the ground fire come up, and the first response was, gee, that's neat, and then the second response is, it's aimed at me. And then it became very realistic, and that's when the maneuvers and the chaff clouds were put out to protect ourselves.
Safely back from the first sortie, but that was just the beginning. Now the pilots know what they'll face.
Lots of ground fire, lots of AAA, that's anti-aircraft artillery. And like I say, I think there was one SAM fired that I saw, but it was so far away and up through the smoke and haze, it was hard to make it out.
So nothing came close to you?
No, but that's the beauty of the system. We can stay far enough away that that's not going to be a problem for us, from the SAMs anyway. The bullets are the ones that scare me.
Now you're going back after breakfast.
We got to go eat breakfast, look at the next mission, and get ready for the next go.
Did all the planes come back?
All 12 of mine came back, and to my knowledge, everybody got back.